Hi there, my name is Manav Prabhakar and I work as a practice manager with the Amazon Web Services or AWS Professional Services team based in Singapore. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about mass migrations and more specifically, the economics around mass migrations. Before we start, it's worth clarifying cloud computing as a term. Cloud computing is a very broad topic. As you've gone through AWS Innovate, you've heard about some of the 90+ services on AWS alone. You've heard about the emergence of newer services like Lex, Poly, machine learning, and IoT. It is very diverse, and there is a lot of components to this proposition. So what is cloud computing? I really like this definition by Simon Wardley. 1, a disruptive transformation of IT. Absolutely, it definitely is. 2, it is a move to a service-based economy. We are all in this momentum of delivering value early and often to our customers. And there are 3 components to the cloud transformation proposition. These are economic, cultural, and technological conditions that exist today. Cloud computing is not just about technology. In a lot of cases, the technology is the easy piece. In Amazon Web Services, we are constantly looking for feedback from our customers to drive the development of newer services or features in our services. The output of this feedback might also take the form of programs to help our customers. An emerging demand that is coming from our customers over the last 18 to 24 months has certainly been that of mass migrations. Customers are asking us about how we can migrate at scale, more effectively and programmatically. Let's talk about some of the work we have been doing in this area and how that specifically maps to migrations. Many enterprises I go and speak to say, we get it. Cloud is the future. We absolutely get it, and we want to get there. We just don't know how. In many cases, these organizations wish they were a startup. They wish they could start all over again with a greenfield IT operation. They wish they could build a cloud operating model from the ground up. But that is not a feasible reality for many of them, and they are saddled with a number of different constraints. In that sense, legacy technology debt is a huge constraint. It's a constraint from a cost-based perspective. It's a constraint from a people and time perspective. It's a constraint in being agile, and it's also a constraint from an operating model perspective. Hence, the emergence of mass migrations as a program. Mass migration is typically the movement of a meaningful portion of your organization's existing IT assets to the cloud. This is an area where we have seen significant demand from our customers, and I'm going to be talking about what it looks like through the rest of this session. In my role, I speak to a lot of enterprise customers. Many of them have slightly different desires and perceptions of what cloud adoption looks like for them. But if you really boil it down, it emerges as 2 clear pathways to how you adopt cloud. The first one is how you remediate your technology debt. So for example, a customer might say, I spent too much on IT today. I can't manage my IT cost base. I have CapEx constraints. All my best people are standing still and they're firefighting most of the time. We have outages in the middle of the night. We can't cope with it. There's a lot of conversation around these concerns and getting them under control. Then there is a more line of business topic where a customer might say, I want to be the next born in the cloud startup. I want to create new sources of revenue for my business. I know that if I stand still, I am going to get disrupted. I want to get closer to my customers. I want to do things around IoT, big data and analytics, machine learning, sentiment analysis, and so on. The focus of today's talk is on remediating technology debt. Another key feedback element from enterprise customers was, we really like the AWS platform. We really like your tools, but AWS should be more prescriptive as a business and give more clear guidance on how we as customers can accelerate our cloud adoption. To help customers on this journey, we came up with the stages of adoption, or SOFA. There are 4 key stages we map the customer journey against. Briefly, these stages are, first stage being project. In this stage, most enterprises start with a few projects to begin to understand how they can leverage the cloud to meet a business need. Next stage is foundation. After a few projects, an organization gains some cloud benefits. At that point, it makes fundamental investments like setting up a cloud team. They might also develop an architectural strategy, deal with identity and access management, create a cost governance structure, and so on. After that comes migration. As the enterprise builds a cloud foundation and gains experience with more projects, they find it more compelling to migrate existing IT applications to the cloud. They start with application discovery process at this point. Some organizations might do a lift and shift, while others might want to refactor their applications so that they can take advantage of features like auto-scaling that they can't get in their own data centers. After that comes reinvention. In this stage, organizations start optimizing the services they have moved to the cloud. If they did a lift and shift in the migration phase, they might choose to refactor applications in this stage. There are two possible paths. One where you go cloud native and build new capabilities entirely in the cloud, and another where you migrate existing workloads and even migrate entire existing data centers and retire technical debt before you re-architect your applications to be cloud native. Now, I'm going to be focusing on the migration piece. Putting our economic or commercial hats on, how do we quantify this? It's not easy. If you are a CIO or head of infrastructure or IT budget owner or a CFO, doing the economics of a cloud business case as a traditional business case is not that easy. There also exist blockers when planning and building mass migration programs and their associated business cases. There's often a lack of data outside of just being able to tabulate and compare infrastructure costs. Most of the time, organizations don't have a view of application-centric total cost of ownership or the legacy constraints in their environment. Next, business cases often don't account for migration pathway either, from either a capacity planning perspective or a schedule perspective, or from the lens of the operating model you want to undertake. When discussing support or partners in a business case, while there is some data available on workforce productivity, there's often a lack of accounting for training and enablement. And finally, most business cases don't account for the financial benefit of innovation that cloud enables. They don't factor in cost avoidance, the cost of migrating to the platform, and many other associated factors with that. So what am I going to be covering today? 1, AWS Business Case Basics. 2, a migration reference case. Then the common blockers and how we can help overcome them. And lastly, some programs we have put together in the last 12 months to pull this all together. We are innovating on many fronts, and we will discuss the programmatic approach that pulls these innovations together. First of all, it's interesting. Where to draw the line? What's in scope for mass migration and what's not? There has been an evolution and growing realization of the benefits of the AWS cloud. I bring these up so that the business case is built with a holistic lens. At a basic level, there's a reduction in the IT cost base, where you're moving consumption-based pricing and reducing upfront capital expenditure. Additionally, you're benefiting from the price reductions that AWS makes. Next comes the acknowledgement that you're able to increase the profitability of your existing products and services. You're doing this by introducing automation, reducing outages, and taking advantage of managed services. On top of that, you're able to enjoy incremental innovation while reducing rework. And at the very top, you're seeing new business growth directly impacted by taking benefit of the AWS cloud. You're doing this with access to reduced cost of entry and the global reach of the AWS platform. You're able to do this with understanding your customers better and reacting much faster to their demands by improving your agility. This is a direct impact to your top line and a business differentiator that the cloud enables in a very real way. I'm going to go into cloud economics in a little more detail very shortly. However, before that, what do the benefits of the cloud mean to you and your organization? While we've known this for a while, it is becoming more apparent that there is a tighter correlation between levels of cloud adoption and business performance. There are already several examples where we're seeing organizations that are adopting the cloud in a meaningful way, being the leaders in the market, industry, and segment that they operate in. Now let's get back into looking into what your business case might look like. As a start, with any business case, you need to baseline the cost of doing nothing. Any executive is going to ask you what happens if you do nothing. What does that look like in the next 5 years? Then you have the investment required to achieve your desired target future. This is made up of 3 different components. There is the application transformation piece and the platform build and enhancement piece. Here is where you, as an organization, have to agree on the approach to move to the AWS platform. Some organizations decide to migrate everything to the cloud using a lift and shift approach so that they can start enjoying cost savings immediately, and decide to re-architect the applications to take advantage of the cloud functionality later. Whereas other organizations choose to re-architect applications to be cloud native before moving them to the cloud. There really is no correct answer, but it's more about your organization and how it wants to move to AWS. Finally, as with any transformation that creates a desired business impact, it's really important to ensure that training and change management are appropriately addressed. First thing you need to do is an application portfolio assessment. The categories on the slide are what we use for illustration, and they might be different for your organization. The categories of applications will drive the techniques that you use for migrations, as well as the amount of investment you make into the migration. For example, a customer-facing application migration technique and investment might be different from that of a test and development application. The application portfolio is then mapped to the server install base. Next, we do a calculation of the do-nothing costs, which we spoke about earlier. This is followed by the 6 R's, our approach to application migrations. What should we retain and what should we retire? And of what we retain, then what is the strategy we undertake for migrating them? Do we rehost? Do we replatform? Do we refactor? Or do we re-architect? Each of these approaches come with their own set of implications. By this point, you've already got an economic hypothesis of what you're doing, which can be supplemented by either a consulting member of the Amazon Web Services Partner Network or the AWS Professional Services team. For example, you would be able to, with some confidence, determine how much it costs you to migrate a certain set of applications and what the cost savings would be. And finally, you have the cash flow piece, which you would do with any business case. Now, I do appreciate that there's a lot of work that needs to be done behind the scenes to build this model. One of the challenges that you will encounter is the data behind these models, or the lack of the data. In some cases, you will encounter that the cost sits across several cost centers. So if you are going to be building this model, data collection is going to be key. You should start as early as possible so that you can build the body of knowledge and begin collecting high-quality data. Now, to supplement the business case, you will likely have a discussion around the benefits of the AWS cloud in your organization. Here, I'm going to discuss 5 of these benefit categories. First, operational costs. You might map infrastructure on your premise to Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud or Amazon EC2 on a like-for-like basis without factoring in the ability to match supply to demand on AWS. If you assume your existing data center is 30% utilized, now what does that look like in AWS? And what would the benefit of that be? You also get this pathway to optionality, which allows you to use other AWS services with no additional investment cost. Next, workforce productivity. You would have heard from the likes of Netflix or Airbnb, where these organizations are able to manage very large technology estates on AWS with a handful of engineers. Now, several enterprises might say that traditional enterprises are different. While that might be the case, there is definitely data to suggest that workforce productivity is vastly improved on AWS by using automation. Productivity from both the cost to run and cost to change perspective is positively impacted. This also means that you can repurpose existing staff to be doing more value-added tasks for the organizations. Cost avoidance. In a traditional environment, there will be costs associated with doing hardware refresh programs and maintenance programs. These costs are not incurred when operating on the AWS cloud. Operational resilience. I will reiterate this with an example shortly, but the impact of the reduced risk profile and the revenue and margin improvement you enjoy with reduced outages is absolutely a huge benefit. Sometimes it's not easy to put a number against these things, but it's certainly very real. Lastly, business agility. The time to market is dramatically reduced when operating on the AWS cloud. You enjoy increased agility with a reduced cost of experimentation. These are benefits that create top-line impact. Now, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Your approach will depend on your organization, your drivers, and what you expect and want out of moving to AWS. Do you want to cut costs? Are you capital constrained? Do you have a data center or co-location contract that's coming end of life? This is going to dictate how you handle migrations in a big way. In those scenarios, you might end up undertaking a lift and shift approach. If you're moving to the cloud to change the customer experience, then that's a different approach to planning your migration to AWS. That said, once you're on the platform that is AWS, you have the optionality and ability to re-engineer and pivot. The point being is that it won't be one-size-fits-all approach. Different organizations have different needs that dictate their cloud program construct, which affects their migration approach. And the reinvention is continuous. However, that is something that has not historically been factored into migrations. So what do I mean? You've got your initial scope of migration where you migrate to AWS to meet your current needs. However, after that, you've unlocked a vast number of other benefits over time. These benefits would just not be there had you done a one data center to another data center migration or one co-location facility to another co-location facility migration. You get access to these additional benefits by default. From a financial perspective, you might not factor all these benefits into your business case on day one, but they're certainly worth taking note of and being aware of. Next, migration reference cases. I'm going to dive into a reference case based on General Electric or GE. In 2015, the CIO of GE spoke at the AWS reInvent conference about moving 9,000 workloads to AWS, reducing from 34 to 4 data centers, and about the initial TCO reduction they had seen with the GE oil and gas business migrating applications to AWS. He also spoke about wanting $1 billion in productivity benefits by migrating to AWS and introducing automation. He also said that GE had been around for 140 years and want AWS to be a partner for the next 140 years. So they definitely moved from the project or foundation stage into the migration phase. What has GE done since? Of the 9,000 applications, they have migrated more than 2,000 across the 12 primary business units. If you refer to the stages of adoption slide that I spoke about earlier, their approach has been very much focused on migrations. More than 90% of the workloads they have migrated are things that they have moved across to AWS. Now they're also firing up an innovation factory, which is building cloud-native applications. Going forward, the split between migrations and net new workloads is going to be 50-50. Let's look at it by discussing the key benefits of the GE migration case. Some of the data is from last year, but the benefits listed are very compelling. I'm going to be highlighting a few of them. For example, they can deliver business applications 77% faster than they were able to before. This positively contributes to business agility. Next, a 98% reduction in high-severity outages like P1 and P0s, which is again a vote for the stronger operational resilience in the cloud. Moving to operational costs, they were able to reduce compute assets by 35%. If you think about a traditional data center, there are a number of assets that once implemented are often not optimized. With the AWS cloud, where you only pay for what you use, you will be able to optimize your use of assets by matching capacity to demand. Now that was GE, but there are many more similar case studies available on our website. I've listed just a few of them here, with new ones being added on a regular basis. Earlier in my presentation, I spoke about the blockers that existed in planning and building mass migration business cases and programs. To recap, we spoke about the lack of data. We spoke about migration planning not being factored into the business case, support that did not focus on training and enablement, and investment amount calculations not being holistic in nature. Now, while there is no silver bullet that solves these problems, there are definitely certain solutions to these blockers that are worth considering. First, there is the AWS Application Discovery Service that can help with robust data collection and application portfolio analysis. Through various AWS services like Server Migration Service and Database Migration Service, the migration pathway is now better understood. As you'll see, the principle to the overall approach is that of introducing automation where possible. With the AWS Competency Program for Migration Partners, AWS Training, and setting up a Cloud Center of Excellence, there are several options to ensuring that the mass migration program is better supported. Finally, there's the AWS Migration Acceleration Program, which pulls a number of initiatives under its umbrella to support our customers in the mass migration journeys. And whether it's an AWS service like AWS Database Migration Service or AWS Resources who build cloud business cases for our customers, this list of initiatives is always growing. Lastly, I'm going to be talking about the Migration Acceleration Program, or MAP. This program is built to help our customers plan and accelerate their large-scale migrations. It is a 4-step process that starts with a Migration Readiness Assessment, or the MRA. This is a 2-day on-site workshop where we sit with the customer's key stakeholders and go through what is essentially a checklist. The checklist helps us determine the readiness of the customer for mass migration and the program itself. The next step is the Migration Readiness Plan, or MRP. Depending on the size of the environment, this could be 4 weeks to 12 weeks long. As an output, you get a true business case, a target operating model definition, recommendations on migration approaches, and a view of the target state. In this stage, the investment is done jointly by AWS and the customer. At the end of the MRP, there is a go or no-go decision made, following which the actual migration itself in step 3. Now, once the migration itself is executed, there is a continuous optimization phase. The Migration Acceleration Program is bolstered by AWS tools, funding for APN partners and professional services, training days, and service credits. From specifically a business case point of view, you get a high-level TCO analysis at the end of the Migration Readiness Assessment in Stage 1. This is, however, not an application-centric business case. It is built to decide whether a mass migration case makes sense or not. At the end of the next phase, Migration Readiness Planning, you get a more detailed business case that takes into account an app-centric approach. To wrap up, here are some lessons from the field. These are things we have seen customers who have made meaningful progress with their mass migrations do. First, data discovery is critical in building a robust business case for mass migrations. It takes time to build the body of knowledge that will enable you to collect high-quality data. So, you should start as soon as possible. Next, given that a mass migration business case is decidedly a complex piece of work, ask for help if you need it. AWS has a number of resources and cloud economics specialists that can assist. While the AWS TCO calculator works in some situations, it was not designed for mass migrations. Test your economic hypothesis. Pick a few applications that you think are representative of your technology estate and move them. Then check if they cost you as much to move as you predicted, and the cost savings are in line with the expectations. The one caveat here is that when you're doing migrations for the first few times, your learnings have not yet accumulated. With every migration, your cloud maturity index goes up and the migrations become easier, and in certain cases, and certain scenarios even cheaper to do. Platform and change management investments create a solid foundation for you to build upon. In some cases, you might have moved at speed because of a compelling event like a data center closure. In some cases, organizations might have spent lots of effort building the underlying platform with associated automation. In either case, it's worthwhile ensuring investments are made in the platform itself and the associated change management. Leverage AWS resources. We spoke at length about the Migration Acceleration Program. Similarly, we have resources from our AWS Professional Services team that you can leverage. Also, there are consulting partners on the AWS Partner Network that can assist you. Lastly, don't underestimate the importance of having the right people with the right skills that will help you define your migration journey. I cannot overemphasize how important having the right people is when it comes to driving successful cloud adoption at scale. Every enterprise that I've met who has made meaningful progress on their cloud journey has focused a lot of their effort on hiring the right people or developing existing staff. This brings me to the end of my session. I hope you found it useful. Do remember to complete the survey by visiting the link on the screen today. If after today you're wanting to take your AWS knowledge to the next level, you have several options available to you. To gain more confidence and hands-on experience with AWS, watch our instructional videos and explore the self-paced labs. Additionally, you can attend our instructor-led classes by qualified AWS instructors and learn how to design, deploy, and operate highly available, cost-effective, and secure applications on AWS. And finally, remember to validate your technical expertise with AWS certifications. With that, I would like to thank you for attending AWS Innovate.